Wonderful.
There you go.
So good to be here. Okay. Sure.
Okay, you're on.
Good morning. Some people are awake. That's good. That's good. So good to be back here this morning, and I brought a special person with me. And so I know that sometimes some of the churches I go to, they want to see a real Indian, right? Well, I brought one. She doesn't like to be the token Indian, but sometimes that, I go a lot of places. I live in a place where I'm the only white person, right? In a lot of ways, so I understand that. But anyway, I did get to have Enrica Deranger come with me this morning, and I'm going to introduce her to you. She's going to speak a little bit, share her testimony with you. Then I'm going to show you a short PowerPoint of a trip we made to Pikangikum First Nation. How many have ever heard of Pikangikum First Nation? Oh, you must listen to the CBC. Yeah, okay. Well, it's the saddest place I've ever gone in my life. And I just want you to see some of those heart-wrenching pictures of places where people, our First Nations people, actually live in this great country of ours. And then I'll come back and close the service. But right now I'd like to introduce Enrica to you. I knew her as Diana Caboni when she was a little girl on the Wikwemikong First Nation on Manitoulin Island. And we had started doing day camps in different places. And at that particular time, we did a big one in the village of Wikwemikong. And then in the rural area, we did another one in a place called Caboni. And along the dusty road came this little girl walking to the day camp. And she's going to tell you a little bit about her story, but how she's come to the Lord and how He's changed her life. But all the things that she had to live with, and now still, live with some of those memories and scars and whatever. And yet she just has such a wonderful heart. She's a powerful woman of God. She's a graduate of York University and Humber College maybe too? Yeah, Humber College as well. And very intelligent young lady, and she does call me her mom. I call her my Donis, which means daughter in Ojibwe. And then she has another couple of other names for me, I won't tell you. A lot of people have nicknames on the reserves, if you don't know about that. Anyway, it's very humorous. It's heartbreaking, and yet it's very humorous. And it's a place that's changed my life, and I love every single minute of it there. And God is just doing some amazing things. And I remember one day she said to me, "You don't even realize it, but you're leading just a whole line of people into heaven." I thought, well, praise God. And you're part of that, right? So Enrica, come up right now and share with us. So she has some minutes. Microphone.
Hello? All right, so yeah. Shirley has me a little nervous here about the time, because apparently I'm usually a led by the Spirit kind of person, let God lead, but I promise to try not to go into your next service, so. And I must remember that I'm not on island time, so.
Yeah, that's right.
As you know, my name's Enrica, and I always grew up as Diane Caboni, from Caboni, so that's my res ID. So, and I'm from Wiki mostly, and but we call it now. It's called Wikwemikong. So I have everybody say Wikwemikong. Can you say Wikwemikong?
Wikwemikong.
Okay. Well, or you can just say Wiki. I work right now with Shirley at Daystar, and I love serving my community and being a light, because it challenges me to grow in my faith and to know what the Word says every day. I'm a single mom of 4 beautiful children. I have my eldest daughter is 22 years old, and My youngest my baby girl is 6, and I have a 9-year-old, Justice and Wisdom. And they're all beautiful. They all love the Lord, and it's just so awesome to be able to say that we are a Christian family. So, and they're really glad for the work I do, because they're glad to see that Mommy's doing something that she loves, which is sharing this transforming love, that Jesus has done in my life with those around me. And my life right now is filled with an all-encompassing purpose for people, and I live my life every day totally surrendered to Him. And what God does with it is truly amazing. I live intentionally, using every moment or event to have believers and non-believers come together, interacting, like my children's birthday parties or housewarming or whatever. I intentionally use those times to bring the people in my community together, because we can all get together and eat and party and talk about Jesus. And it's those moments and that those conversations can build. I feel, with God leading, that, as an Indigenous person, I know that having God Lord of my life is really liberating and important. And I desire my people to have the abundant life that only comes through having that personal relationship with Jesus. And I say personal because it is really personal. And I have conversations with God. He wakes me up every morning saying, "Time to get up, daughter," and I hear His voice. It sounds like my natural father's voice, but I don't need an alarm clock. That's how He wakes me up every morning, so. And I want my people to know what it is to have Jesus, in their lives. I grew up, I gave my heart to the Lord at a little camp, and when Daystar came into the community as 10 years old, or 10 or 11, I can't really remember the age, but I remember sitting there with this girl named Laura, and she prayed with me, and I remember just looking up, and when she told me that there's a party in heaven right now, and I just remember looking up, imagine seeing all those angels having a party. And I'm not saying that my life has been easy. It's actually been kind of difficult. Since that time, I had been through a lot of sexual abuse and drug abuse, and myself, because of all the pain. I grew up with my stepmom, and I lived like a Cinderella life, and my dad was always gone all the time, and I was left alone a lot to care for my siblings, and being left alone a lot allowed other people that were there, supposed to be spiritual people, to take advantage of me. And I wanted to numb that pain with, drug abuse and tobacco and all that stuff. And the thing is that, with all of that abuse and all of those horrendous things, I don't want to go into it, otherwise we could be here for weeks. So if I was to share all the stuff that I'd been through. And I just want to let you know that I love my family. My family are beautiful, wonderful people. And even though all of that stuff happened and all of these things happened, I like to call it residential school syndrome. So it's really a reason why I think this residential school reconciliation commission is important. But really, what my people need is to be reconciled to Jesus and to know who Jesus really is, not what people say He is, and so I endeavor to live my life, being that light, being salt and light in my community and my family, so people can know and see that despite all the things that I still struggle with and still go through and things that still happen in my life, that God is the source of my strength, that He is my strength. He is my shield. He keeps me, and He's my reason, for living. And I want other people to be able to, my people to know that also. I'm a single mom, and raising my children to know who God is something that I think is important. And there are many other single parents and families in the community that I encourage through the programs. I work with at Daystar, like we have this Caregivers and Tots program, and I live to encourage. Like just last night, one of the moms was able to message the mom to encourage her, because she says, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get up and go to church every morning. And I said, I know, because we have to. I said, I know, I don't want to a lot of times get up and go to church in the morning, but I do it anyways, because it's my job as a mom to show my kids that God is a priority in my life and not something that's is a last resort or a last thing. It's something that needs to be put first. And I encourage other families to want to have that desire to encourage their family, because I know what God does for me and my family, and I hold on to the promise that He is husband to the husbandless and father to the fatherless. And I enjoy teaching, parenting principles with biblical principles, because I know how important it is to have God Lord of your house and Lord of your life. So, and I believe it's with God that, we, through this, way that God can teach us to parent our children with dignity and respect. For so long, a lot of that has been broken because of what happened in residential schools when our children were taken from us and abused in a lot of ways. And there's a tone, there's a way, and and the only way to bring that, how to be a parent is from the parent of parents, and from the King of Kings. And He is everything, and that's what we need and our people need. I originally started my position at Daystar on a community placement, which is like a volunteer program, after circumstances brought me from living in Toronto for 16 years to come live over there, and I'm on this placement now. And then it became from volunteer to part-time to full-time to, and now I'm decided to take a bold step and just fully relying on God and not on assistance, to support the work I do there for my family and my people. So I really live to be salt and light, and I really want our people, and I don't just work in my community. A lot of the other communities I go around, because I know a lot, and my family is connected, from Alberta to here. So, and I just want to encourage families and to be a family, to be grafted into the family of Christ, so that they can build meaningful memories together and friendship, and I aspire to bring joy and hope to those that are hurting, grieving, and experiencing trauma. So spending time just sharing the truth.
Put it down. Is it off?
I'm a fruit.
Yes. You know what she just said to me? I'm a fruit. And that's so true. And often the girls that work in the center with me call themselves a fruit because they're a fruit of this ministry. And so anyway, we did bring along our Dateline papers. They're just hot off the press. I'm not sure where they disappeared to, but if you can all pick one up somewhere at the end of the service, or maybe you already have yours, and you will read more about our summer experiences and all that kind of thing. So that fruit remains too, and we're looking for fruit that remains because we disciple people. That's our passion, to disciple people and teach them how to obey the Lord. And of course, that's a great commission, right? Okay, so for 2 years, I've had the opportunity to go with a group called Heart to Heart. Jen Wilson from Uxbridge leads it, and I've gone with her a couple of times. And then this past May, I took Enrica and Georgina Nawagabo along with me as well. And Georgina had actually taught in that community 20 years ago. So the people knew her. She could speak their type of Ojibwe, because there's different dialects and everything. And it was just an awesome time. I was heartbroken. And coming back even to Wikwemikong, I had a hard time transitioning and getting these scenes and the people out of my mind and out of my, well, not out of my heart, because they remain there forever. But, you know, we think of the first chapter of Acts and how it says we need to be witnesses from Jerusalem to Samaria, you know, to Judea and to the uttermost parts of the earth. And our Jerusalem and our Samaria is right here in our own country. But so many, and I was one of them, had no idea about the conditions that a lot of our First Nations people live in. So you're going to see some pictures now. It's a short PowerPoint, and I'll speak along with it. Hopefully I'm not blocking anyone's view. Stay here? Okay. I've got to see the picture. All right. Here we go. So the three of us went. So where is Pikangikum? Pikangikum is in northwestern Ontario. We flew to Thunder Bay and then to Sioux Lookout and then north from there. And there are about 29 of these reserves where the only access is to fly in these small planes, or else to go by ice road in the wintertime. That's how we got there, flying these little planes, and that was an adventure. We loved it. All right. Scareskin Airlines, oh my. Right. So this is a little airport, and it's just a steel building with a big heater in the ceiling and some steel benches and one desk, and that's it. And you come into this community, there are 3,000 people living there, but you would never guess that it was that big, because so many people live in each house. And this area was where we first went, and the dear people in that house, you know, right from the beginning, my heart was broken to see this older lady, this elder, lying on a couch and so sick, and she was going blind and all that, and we had the opportunity to pray for her. This is the laundromat, and this is often what the buildings look like. They're very, you know, run down and whatever. Garbage all over the roof, garbage all over the land. I don't know why they don't pick it up, but it's just ground into the soil, and then they put more on top. This is what the roads are like. So you be thankful for what you've got, right? So a lot of them have ATVs, and then some have vehicles. And you just bounce and bounce and bounce around. And during the rainy season, it gets pretty bad there. This is where we stayed. These are called teacherages, and they fly in teachers to live here for some time, and they have these little places that they can stay in, little apartments and so on, little duplexes. And there is a missionary there named Colleen Estes, and we stayed with her. She's the only missionary there in that place, and she's just going 100 miles an hour all day and all night sometimes. It's just incredible what this woman does. So Georgina Nawagabo is on the right, and she's just a beautiful person who lives on Manitoulin Island as well, and her husband has been a native pastor. And here's Colleen on the right with the red jacket with one of the Pekanjikum girls. And this is how the women dress there, ladies. Aren't you glad you live here? But they wear these plaid dresses that are homemade, and then they put leggings and whatever underneath, and then running shoes, and the hoodie over, of course. Yeah. And this is the youth center, and they've given that to the missionary to use on certain nights for the youth to come together. That's where we had an addictions meeting too. And I want one of those. I just love that. So the police and the nurses and all those service people fly in for their because of the huge problems and the despair. And often the faces look like these very, very sad little children, and the adults too. And they seem to be very shy, and they don't talk even to each other very much, it seems. So the men on the right were at our addictions meeting, and that was an amazing time. We had worship music, and each one of us got to speak and share our testimonies and something from the Word. This is another Shirley with me. She's one of the band counselors. And they have these little sheds that they call convenience stores. And this was Shirley's store, and then they'll have Bella's store, and so and so and so and so. And it's mostly pop and chips, and then some other things along with it. So we did different programs in the community. This was at the ladies' meeting, and Enrica spoke at the ladies' meeting, and she was having great difficulty, and I wondered what the problem was. And later on she said, I could hardly speak because in this gymnasium, there were these ladies, and I tried to look at them and speak to them, but up here, there were all these evil spirits that she saw in that building. And even around the head of one of those ladies, there was like a coil of string or like rope or something, like she was going to be strangled. And there's so much warfare and so much spiritual activity that is counter to God's way and his program. And these people hardly ever laugh. And so we provided some activities where they started to laugh. And I think that was a highlight for me, just to see some of these people laughing. And all of a sudden, the atmosphere changed and they felt free. And that was a really great experience. And then we did it with the kids as well. And then Enrica had a candy scramble, which was really, really fun. What? Candy raid, okay, whatever. So she's standing there and she's doing a candy raid with them. But this is the type of thing they need to have. They need to have some social interaction as well. And to know that, we as Christians, we go in and we can have some fun. So that was a great time. And then we had an elders gathering. About 50 of them showed up, and Georgina spoke at that gathering. That was a great day. And then we did a lot of child care. We did a lot of cooking. This is the sort of thing that happens there. This car ran out of gas near the airport, and it was stalled on the road. The next day it comes, the owner comes back. A lot of the windows are bashed out, and it's just vandalized. So many things are just vandalized. Now this place on the right where you see the picket fence, those are graves. And 9 family members died here in a house fire a year ago March. And they couldn't get out of the fire, likely because they had been drinking. And none of them got out. They all died, and they're all buried here. Now, the Ontario chief, who's Isidore Day, who has an office in Toronto, and he's from up north, he said that there's one fire truck in the community, and the fire truck had no water in it. And even if it would have had water, it could never have gotten to the house because of the road conditions. They would have been so sloppy and wet, and it's clay. It's very difficult. But this was just overwhelming to stand there at that graveside and realize all of this. Now, in spite of how the community is, they have this wonderful new school, $64 million. Now, a lot of that cost is transportation. Everything has to be flown in or driven in on an ice road truck. So, all the cement, all the steel, everything has to come in that way. But it's just a marvelous, marvelous place, and it's the only place in the community that's kept up. And we enjoyed having a tour of that. They have high school Bible study on Wednesday noons. These are some of the names on the left. And lots of Peters there, and keepers, and turtles. One little girl's name was Tina Turtle. I thought that was so cute. And and this art, lots of native art in that place. And then too soon it was time to return home, and on Wasaya Airlines. Oops, that's me playing in the airport. and Georgina was tired coming back. Red Lake is a gold mining community, and that's one of the major communities for air travel. And then the suicide happens so much. This place has been known to be the suicide capital of the whole world. And it just happens over and over and over again. My husband Don went there in like the year 2000, and already it was like that. 17 years later, it's not any better. And while we were there, they had just had two 12-year-old girls take their lives, and another one, and a teenager that week. And it just keeps going and going and going. There's also a lot of inhalant, like gas inhalant. And one of the little boys I took care of, he was scarred from here down. And he had been sniffing gas with his little buddy, and his buddy lit him on fire. And he just barely escaped with his life. But there's so much tragedy and so much sadness. And they would say, probably that a lot of them are Christians. They know there's hope, but it's just not evident, and it's not working for them. Something's got to change up there. And I hear now that in the year 2018, they're finally going to get power. They have no hydro up there at all, these communities. And so if they have hydro, it's because they have generators. And 90% of these homes do not have running water. There's all of this, that causes despair too. But it's just overwhelming, and I can hardly get over it even when I speak of it. But there's still the transforming power of Christ. And he can transform the mind as well as the heart. And so we want to go back and come alongside them and encourage them and bring Native people in to help Native people, not just money from a government, right? And that's what they need too. So God is in the business of changing lives. And I hired a maintenance man not too long ago, and he started missing work, and he came in and he'd be crying. He was just totally broken man. He had lost everything. And I said, Rodney, you need Jesus in your life. And we had this long talk, and then he was taken off to jail, and I went over to the band office where he was going to appear in court. Saw him come in with the orange jumpsuit on and the shackles on him and everything, And I went to see his lawyer to see if I could help in some way. Saw him being put back in the paddy wagon to be driven back to the Sudbury jail. And I stopped in the parking lot, and I just prayed my heart out for that boy. Little did I know, sitting in the paddy wagon, he invited Jesus into his life. And he was changed. He was truly changed. Now he's, having difficulty. And we told him, you're going to be tempted. The devil's not going to give up on you easily. And that's being very true right now. And so please pray for Rodney. Pray for all of our Native people who suffer so much. And yet there's such value in every single soul. The only true value and lasting value there is that anyone has is the soul. And that's why Jesus died, to save our souls, right? It's 10:30 already. Anyway, I'm going to be around for a couple of days. If anybody really wants to know more about Daystar or about Native people, about their culture or anything like that, I'll be around for a while. And you can see me or find me or whatever. Okay? So thank you so much for all your support. You can see some fruit now. And maybe another time we can bring some other folks along and you can enjoy them. But you can meet us upstairs as well, okay? Thanks very much.